And now, back to David Spada and Elliott Harris for more Sports and Torts on TalkZone.com.
Boy, it is a true pleasure. We get to talk to an NFL Hall of Famer who I watched play when he was with the Oakland Raiders, him and Lester Hayes. They were just unstoppable with the Raiders back in the mid-'80s. Pro Football Hall of Famer Mike Haynes. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on today.
Thank you. I see you went to John Marshall High School in Los Angeles. I went to John Marshall Law School in Chicago. I didn't realize there was a John Marshall High School.
Yeah, it's really kind of strange. When I was going to school there, it was more known for academics than sports. And I played on a football team that didn't win. My senior year, we didn't win any games. But today, last year they played in the CIF championship, so it's different now. And the demographics in the whole area have changed over the years.
The only thing I knew about John Marshall was he was the guy who signed the Constitution real big.
Yeah. We were actually called the Marshall Barristers after him.
You got to be careful with that nickname. So does this mean that UCLA and USC didn't come after you?
Well, UCLA came after me in track. But back in those days, I think every kid growing up playing football wanted to, in LA, wanted to play at USC when John McKay was there, and I had a lot of Heisman Trophy winners, and
right.
even back in those days.
Because you were at ASU, and what, Frank Kush was their coach back then?
Yeah, exactly.
And your football team was pretty good. I know Danny White was a quarterback before you got there, but you had some NFL players on that team.
Oh, we had a lot. Guys who went on and had great NFL careers before me and after me. Charlie Taylor, Hall of Fame wide receiver for the Washington Redskins. Curly Culp, J.D. Hill, Art Malone, Ben Malone, just a bunch. And then with me, Danny White, Steve Holden, Woody Green, Al Harris played for the Bears. Just a whole bunch of good players. Played 3 Fiesta Bowls back in those days. My senior year, we were undefeated and beat Nebraska in the Fiesta Bowl.
And those were the days before you had 30 bowl games, and almost every team got to go. In that era, it actually meant something to go to a bowl game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And but in defense of the way it is now, I still think it's pretty exciting. But you're right. Not very many teams went to bowls, and it meant a lot more. And the Fiesta Bowl, fortunately, it's still recognized as a great bowl, and as it was then.
Now, a lot of coaches will use bowl games as additional, almost an early spring practice session. Is that what it ended up being for you guys under Kush? Because he had a very hard reputation. As a tough taskmaster.
Yeah, and deservedly so. We could beat teams, but for him it mattered how we beat them. Sometimes we might be in at halftime 14-0, and he'd come in and rip us like we were doing poorly, and we'd go back out the second half and score 30 points. So, he was an interesting guy. Glad had a chance to play for him. My senior year, we only had 6 seniors. And the year before, we had more than 20 seniors. And he said that the team that I was on my senior year was maybe the best team that he'd ever coached. And right now, it is still the only undefeated team since, that was back in 1975. They've had some other teams that have come close, but they lost the bowl game. So Coach Kush was on to something. He knew a little bit about us. And off that team, we had several first-round players, Larry Gordon, linebacker to the Miami Dolphins, Al Harris, a defensive lineman to the Chicago Bears, myself, and other guys that went in the early rounds in the draft. So we were putting up a lot of points in those days and had an unbelievable defense. And they're trying to get back to those days now, but it's not getting any easier.
Then you get drafted by the Patriots.
Yeah, well, and, the Patriots, the year I got there in 1976, they were coming off of a terrible season the year before, only 3 wins, but they had quite a few draft choices. So they had 3 first-rounders, Tim Fox out of Ohio State, another defensive back, and Pete Brock, an offensive lineman from University of Colorado. and me, and we still had other guys that came from that in that draft that made our team that year that were all big contributors, and we turned the season around and we had 3 losses during the regular season.
How does a guy who grew up in L.A., went to college in Arizona, deal with the New England temperature that tends to get a little brisk come fall?
Well, it was a culture shock, to go back there to play and to feel like that was where I was going to be spending my, next 10 years of my life playing football, hopefully. But I adjusted. I can remember the first time it snowed. I'd never really seen snow come down except in the movies, and I'd been up to the snow. In Southern California, it's one of the great things about it is you can drive out to the beach and go surfing, or you can drive up to the mountains and go skiing on the same day. And so I'd been up to the snow, obviously, but never really seen it come down. And I'll never forget Tim Fox had invited me over to his home for dinner, and I went out to my car, and I went back inside and called him and said, "Hey, Tim, it's snowing, man. I can't make it." And he started laughing. He laughed so hard. And I don't think I'll ever live that down.
You must have thought it was easy in the NFL. I mean, you get 8 interceptions your rookie year, and you were phenomenal on punt returns.
Well, it was one of the things I loved to do have the ball in my hand, I like to run with it. And being a rookie, every team picked on me because you figure where's the weakness in the defense? Let's go after the young guys. And I did make a lot of mental mistakes that year. Probably led the team in mental errors. But I would self-correct it, in the middle of the play. Like, for instance, if I'd be lined up outside the receiver, backpedaling on the outside shade, and then remember, oh, wait a minute, if both the backs go away, I'm supposed to switch the inside shade, And so because I was on the outside shade and the quarterback recognized I was on the outside shade, thought I was going to stay on the outside shade, but I would just seem to switch back to the inside shade just as he was throwing the ball, and then consequently I'd be in great position for interception. So I almost led the league that year with interceptions, and I did lead the league in punt return yards. I had a thing back in those days. I never used to fair catch. So my average probably wasn't as high as it could be, but it was one of the higher averages in the league that year, and I led the league in total return yards.
And you gave the Patriots their first punt return touchdowns. You had an 89-yarder and a 62-yarder. You remember those?
Oh, absolutely. I thought it was kind of strange that they had that record, that no one had ever returned a punt for a touchdown. And I knew early on that we would break that because of the commitment that the guys had on special teams. And, we had a lot of guys who were just really awesome special teams players, a guy named Dickie Kahn, Jeff Phillips, and we had a lot of starters on our punt return team. So it wasn't like taking, guys who weren't playing. These are guys who were excellent athletes and wanted to score. And so I'm kind of lucky to be the guy that was chosen to be the returner. But it was a lot of fun, and every game people used to, I think, love to come see if I was going to fair catch or not. And it was just a good time to be back there and a good time to be a Patriot fan.
How did you end up with the Raiders? I never got that because there was no free agency back then.
Well, I was having some contract problems, and one thing led to another, and I jumped on an airplane. But the way I got there, it's just really too long. You almost have to dedicate a whole show to that. But I jumped on an airplane and flew out and signed a contract with the Raiders, which really technically you couldn't do, but because the Patriots still own my rights. But I played out my contract, and there's really no real good reason. It was challenged by the league, but in the end, everybody decided that it might be the best thing to happen, and they let me go to the Raiders, and they gave the Patriots a couple of great draft choices for me. So I was happy because it got me back home into Los Angeles.
And this happens like toward the end of the season that all this is going on. It's not like, okay, this is an off-season transition. How difficult was that?
It was pretty difficult. It was in October, and my wife was pregnant with the baby, and it was pretty hard just to be home wondering if I was going to play that season. You're right. It was very difficult, in fact, but But everything worked out, and in the end, it was one of the better decisions I made in my life.
Yeah, I mean, you played, 5 regular season games, and then you're playing in the Super Bowl. They had to be phenomenal.
That didn't get any better than that. And the Raiders had a great team. They just had a young corner, getting Ted Watts out of Texas, one of the Texas schools. And he was playing great, but just like when I was a rookie, they would pick on him. And I think even though the Raiders would still win the game, they felt like they wanted to shore up that and take that off the table, you might say, for other teams. And he brought me in, and they didn't pick on me, so I wish they had, but they didn't, and that helped the defense. And we went on to, win the AFC Championship, beat the Seattle Seahawks, and then on to the Super Bowl to play the defending champions, the Washington Redskins.
Now, you also, in that secondary, you had Lester Haynes. Was there any confusion between Hayes and Haynes?
No, the only difference between the two of us really was just the spelling of our names. We were both love playing corner, love playing man-to-man, and like getting after people. Lester was a little bit more aggressive in the way that he approached the game than me. I wouldn't call anybody out and tell him, I'm going to shut you out, or, I wouldn't say anything like that, because I wouldn't want to say anything that was going to amp up your testosterone or and so for me, I try to just keep it low key, but with Lester, that was hard to do. And I think as a result of it, though, we would always get the best effort from our opponents, and made us bring out our A game a lot more often probably than we would have to do normally or otherwise.
But at least your teammates would shake hands with you. No one wanted to shake hands with Lester with the stick 'em on him.
Well, that didn't last for very long. When they started, they had to outlaw the stick 'em because it was catching on, not only with Lester, because he led the NFL that year with interceptions. He was the MVP of our league because of that great year. But because of that, other guys were starting to use it. And when it gets on a football, you can't get it off. You have to take it in the back and use some kind of special chemical to get it off. And it ruined a lot of balls. And so they were going through too many balls for a game, and they outlawed it because of that.
Now, with the Raiders, you had a 97-yard interception return for a touchdown against, was that Marino quarterbacking Miami?
Yep, that was against the Miami Dolphins, and I was covering Mark Duper, and, a quick little 3-step drop type play, and I stepped in front of it. Duper, I'm not sure. I was really kind of funny. I've seen him a million times since then, and never really asked what he was doing, because you would think that one of them made a mistake. Either Dan made a mistake or he made a mistake, because he threw the ball, and Duper was breaking out, and I took a little peek, and I saw the ball coming, and so I just in front and grabbed it, and off to the races. Tried to get to the other end zone before he caught me, and that guy was one of the world-class sprinters, like a Cliff Branch type. He could really run.
Was there a point on that return that you said, I see nothing but the end zone at the other end, and you knew you had 6 points?
Well, I knew I had 6 as long as he didn't catch me, and that was my only concern. Because when I caught the ball, I really lost sight of him. I didn't know where he was. I didn't know if he was right behind me or deep in the end zone. I had no idea. So, and I didn't want to take a look to my right to find him there. So I just kept looking downfield and kept going.
Because you knew Marino wasn't going to catch you.
Well, you never know.
So you go from the Raiders to working for the NFL. I mean, you played for the Raiders. Al Davis was the owner, and Davis and Pete Rozelle were constantly at it. I mean, I think Davis drove Rozelle nuts. And then you go to the NFL. Was that a change for you?
It was a great change, because I think I got really educated at that point with what the league was all about. And I think as a player, during my era, I think we didn't really think that the league really cared about the players and didn't care about the game as much as it should, And I found out by going there that was totally wrong. And probably the biggest thing that the two needed to do, the players and the league, was to have more chances to talk and to communicate, because through just talking about common issues, I think they would have come up on the same side of the table every single time. And, Commissioner Tagliabue, who was commissioner when I joined the league, was really good at doing that and calling players in to talk. And so is Roger Goodell, the current commissioner, is also very good at getting information from all the sides, all the stakeholders, before he, takes a position. So it was probably one of the best things that ever happened for me, because I know that when it comes to the game, the players, the safety, that a lot of times what we think is like they maybe didn't care. It's that they just didn't know what was going on. Everybody assumed that they did, and I know from being there that wasn't always the case.
Well, and nowadays, there seems to be a lot of polarization between sides on things, and there's a lot of safety issues. You have replacement officials and things like that, and it's sort of an organized chaos. You would think an enterprise as big as the NFL and all the money involved, they could somehow get all their ducks in a row and have things run smoothly. Does it amaze you when things don't go smoothly?
It does amaze me, but sometimes I don't have all the facts, and I may not side. My position may not be supported by, I may not have enough information to really support a great position. So, with the referees, the officials, I'd like to see them taken care of. I mean, they are big contributors to the game. I don't even know, to be honest with you, what their real issue is, why they're not on the same page. I don't get that, but I'm not trying to get it either. So, don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm sitting down trying to figure it out. I know that those guys really, really work hard to be the best officials they can be. And I worked in the league office and I saw them do their work firsthand during the season, during the off season, and the commitment to the head official and football operations and to getting it right. And even to the degree that coaches and players will communicate with the league office about different penalties and different things, all with the idea of trying to get it right, to get everybody on the right page and making sure that that they're making the right decision in the best interest of the game. And as a consequence, things are much better. The safety is hugely important and taking completely different now than it was, say, when I played in the 70s and 80s. And there's, they're looking all the time at equipment and all kinds of things, which I think which bode well for the future of the game. And for me, because it was my sport, I'd like to see the game played all over the world and just continue to grow. And when you look at where it started and where it is now, you like to think that does have a chance of happening over my lifetime. So I'm excited about it. It's not perfect. Probably never will be perfect because of just different things that are always going on with technology and questions and answers, and even the way we look at benefits and things like that. But overall, I think you have to say it's all been going in the right direction, in a good direction for the growth of the game.
Your former teammate, Gene Upshaw, when he was head of the NFLPA, got a lot of criticism from former players like Joe DeMore and Mike Ditka saying that he sold out the former players. How did you feel about that?
Well, for me, it's very hard because Gene was also a friend of mine. And I never really played with him as a Raider, but I did play with him in Pro Bowl games. I got to know him. And even when I got the job in the NFL office and my department that I managed, player development, I had a lot of interaction with the Players Association, and I saw Gene quite a bit. So I knew where his heart was. I knew what he was trying to do, and I can't say that I always agreed with what he did, but I knew where he was, where he was focused. And some of the things that he said, I really didn't understand why he said them, and that really upset a lot of the guys. That we all had a lot of respect for him, but so he put himself in a situation where there's a lot of room for criticism. Some of the things that he did and said and supported. But there was also another side of him that was very good and did a lot of good things for players. And I just, the thing I hate is that all the good things that he did will be, put under a table, and no one will remember those. They'll remember the things that they wished he had done. But I totally understand that, and I still I can't really say that the way that a lot of folks are looking at him, former players are looking at him, is the wrong way, because I see exactly what they're seeing. I see the exact same things that they're seeing, and I wish it wasn't that way. I wish Gene would have done things a little bit differently, but and he's not here to tell us why he did them, and he was constantly trying to defend himself. And again, like I said, I would see him in different situations and talk to him privately, and he would share a different side of the story that he could not share publicly with other folks. And so I still think he'll be remembered as one of the great players of all time, and one of the guys that really led change for the Players Association, and unfortunately didn't get things done the way that we all would have loved him to have completed for us. But hopefully they'll happen in time. Let's just say he got the ball rolling. Maybe this judgment, he'll be judged by a lot of people by how his decisions impacted them individually. And a lot of the guys in the pre-93 guys like myself, I think there's real good reason for criticism.
Now, in 1997, you were elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame after having retired, last season in '89. Did you see that coming? Did you think it was overdue? Did you think it was early? How did you view all that?
I thought I had a couple more years left in me. I saw, once you've been in the league for a while, you can see, how guys are being moved around and things, and you see them getting them ready to play, and I could see that. I wasn't ready to stop playing. I really didn't feel like I got beat out, and so that was made a little bit tough to leave. And so when they asked me to step down and let the other guys play in front of me, it was hard. How do you say, sure, great, this is wonderful, but hindsight is I wished I had have done that, because maybe I would have gotten 3 more years in, and I would have been able to do a lot of things that I'd wanted to do anyway. But my attitude, I guess, about the end of my career and how it was going to end was, no one knows it, but I wished I had done things differently. I had a chance to do things differently, and I think I might have made the wrong choice, but you never know.
Is there ever going to be another owner like Al Davis in the NFL?
Oh, sure. Maybe. No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't think there could possibly be anyone like Al. One is just the era that he was around, and the friends that he made and the impact that he had on the league. All the great things that he did as an owner have been adopted really into the NFL. Different things that he did that were really special. You take, when word got out that he was doing it, other owners started doing it, and so I think they probably owe him a lot, but his personality was one where he walked alone a lot, and so I don't know that I hope he'll go down in history the way he should go down in history, as one of the greatest owners of all time. With all of us that are alive now, that he has his due place in history.
What was your first time in Canton, Ohio like?
The first time was very tough, because it was inducted in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That was my first time there. and it's a whirlwind. I mean, you're going from one banquet room to the next, celebrating something, either a charitable cause or doing, being introduced as, the next guys are going to be inducted this weekend. And it was a blur. It was a blur. You didn't really get to enjoy too much time with your friends until after the ceremony, and you have your little party and get a chance to be with your family and friends. But for the most part, before that, it's very difficult to have a good, to enjoy it. You have to come back and enjoy it the following year.
I know September is a special month to you because it's National Prostate Awareness Month. How did you get involved with that?
Well, actually, it's a good segue from the Pro Football Hall of Fame comments we were making. At the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the NFL and the American Urological Association, they had partnered to offer free screenings to retired players, and they kicked it off at the Hall of Fame. And being there, as it been at that time, I was an employee of the NFL, they asked me to go down to where they were doing the screening because they were going to do a public service announcement. And while I was there, the ladies that were working there, I now call them angels, they convinced me that I should take this simple blood test, and I might encourage other guys to do it. So I did. And with that, the doctor called me in and started asking me about my PSA and what was my baseline PSA. And that was the first time I had heard of PSA, for blood tests. And PSA stands for prostate-specific antigen, not public service announcement. And so anyway, the doctor scared me when he gave me all these statistics about 1 in 6 men would be diagnosed with prostate cancer in their lifetime. And when you compare that to 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in their lifetime, I really wondered why I hadn't heard of this before. And everybody's heard of breast cancer and Breast Cancer Awareness Month and what a woman needs to do if she has breast cancer, or how she determines it, if there's something, what some of the signs are or symptoms of breast cancer might be. But most men don't know where the prostate gland is, what it does. They don't know that 1 in 6 men are going to be diagnosed with it. A lot of men will tell you they don't know any man that has prostate cancer because men just don't talk about it. And so when I heard that more than half the men that are going to get it are going to be African-American men, when I got back home, I called my primary care doctor and asked a lot of questions about my PSA. And he shared with me that my most recent PSA, what it was, and then I shared with him what my PSA was at this free screening, and he looked at my chart and he saw that, wow, it's been, rising quite aggressively over the last 2 years. And so he recommended a biopsy because I was also African-American. And with the biopsy, it came back positive, so I found out that I did have prostate cancer. And fortunately for me, we caught it early, and that's when it's most treatable, and that's when men need to deal with their prostate cancer. And so I became the spokesperson because I got educated, and the AUA asked me if I would help them get the word out. And I said, yeah, this is crazy that most men don't know anything about this disease, and it's pretty rampant among men. And it runs in families, and it's also, African-American men are higher risk. So it made it easy for me to say, yeah, I want to help. I want to make a difference here. And I've been doing that for the last 4 years. And our campaign has grown. The NFL has made a lot of public service announcements that are played in NFL stadiums. We now have items that we auction off on the NFL auction, NFL.com. We have relationships with more than 500 hospitals where they do educational educational seminars or conferences, in a local community, and invite people in. We have retired players and current players coming also to a lot of these hospitals to help encourage men to come. And it's just, the campaign's just been growing and growing. Our goal is to make a dent in the number of men that die from this disease. If we know about it, and I'm hoping that the men who do get it will start to talk about it and encourage other men to get active and hopefully catch their prostate cancer early, like I did, when it's easily treatable. So it's for me. You can tell. I hope you can tell. I'm super passionate about this. Feel really blessed that the NFL and the AUA, that's the large urological membership organization, all made up of doctors. They're the leaders in the research, and they're the ones that manage our website, knowyourstats.org. And they're also the ones that if anyone has any questions, they can go to that website and find answers. So I think we're the best resource for information when it comes to prostate cancer. I'm very fortunate to be teamed up with a lot of guys that feel the same way I do. We've had Deacon Jones and Ronnie Lott and Marcus Allen. This year we had Harry Carson to go out with me on these satellite media tours and just encourage men to get off the couch and get educated about their prostate health. Because men at age 40, that's when the AUA is recommending men get educated and start to have a conversation with their doctor about their prostate health, because that is the best thing that we can do if we're going to try and put up a good defense against prostate cancer.
Yeah. And as you say, the screening for it is so simple, and the treatment for it, if caught early enough, is reasonably simple. It's just getting it diagnosed, getting it taken care of early, and it's not like, oh, I have prostate cancer and my life's over. This is the sort of thing that you can have dealt with and recover from it and go on and live, a relatively normal existence.
Oh, yeah. Relatively normal is the right way to think about it. See, most men are going to get prostate cancer. Most men are going to get it. But you don't have to die from it, and that's the thing. So if you know you have it, there's one of the treatment options is what they call watchful waiting. And so they just monitor it. And so if it doesn't increase or get more aggressive, you can live your whole life without doing anything, just monitoring it. But if it gets aggressive, you need to know it. And when you know it, then you can treat it. And me, I had a radical prostatectomy, means that I had my prostate taken out. So a relatively new surgery. They use these Da Vinci robots to perform the surgery. And I use that. And I guess nowadays more than 90% of the surgeries are done with this Da Vinci robot. But it's minimally invasive. So I was in the hospital one day and out the next day. I had a catheter on, which is no fun. You're walking around with like a urine catheter, hidden under my pants, But that's about 8 days. Take that out, and then it's almost back to life to normal. There is a period of months where you're gaining strength and things are going on in your body that are healing. But I'm totally back to being the way I was because we caught it early. In the old days, they would have impotence problems and incontinence problems, but those are they don't happen as often anymore, and largely it's because of technology and different advances that have been made in several different treatment areas, not just the robot, the Da Vinci robot, in several different areas. And I just always encourage men to talk to their doctor about them and start to get educated, because it's going to happen, and you just want to be ready when it does.
They got the right spokesman. You were a great defensive player, and you're great talking about defending against prostate cancer. It seems like you got everything covered.
Well, I got a lot of great teachers out there, I can tell you that. So thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem. I just wish the NFL would basically have the players wear like a collar or a band to promote this, like they do breast cancer with the pink.
Well, that's the goal, and hopefully we'll get there. Again, the women, they do such a great job of promoting the breast cancer, and we have to catch up to them. And we've actually recruited a lot of women to help us. For a lot of men, guys hearing me on the radio won't be enough for them to get up and go and call their doctor. But when we recruit their wives and their sisters and their moms, they have a huge impact on these men. They'll take them to the doctor's office. So, we're getting out there. We'll get there, and hopefully that's when when you see guys wearing blue-tip shoes and things like they do, blue gloves like they do for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which is next month in October. then you'll know that we have, well, I want to say we've reached our goal, but we're reaching our goal. We're closer to reaching. I think we'll say we reached our goal when we don't have to worry about prostate cancer ever again.
All righty. Thank you to Mike Haynes, Pro Football Hall of Famer. Thank you to bikini competitor and lovely lady Lisa Eveleth for another scintillating show of Sports and Torts with David Spada and Elliott Harris. Many thanks to our producer, Dave Olson. And tune in again next time on TalkZone.com.